What's up, family? I want to talk to you guys today about an interesting topic. I'm asked a lot, why do I spend so much time with elderly people? Short answer is I love elderly people. I love learning. Um, and so that puts me in a position to be able to ask people that have been around a lot longer than I have a bunch of different questions. And that I'm able to glean something from their knowledge, their experience, their wisdom. Um, and so that enables me to be able to continue my growth and development. Short answer. It's an interesting concept. I talk to elderly people a lot, and their biggest complaint with society now is that people don't respect their elders. And I'm not just talking about people in their 60s, 70s, and above. People don't respect their elders, period. Um, and I see this a lot too, especially young adults, people hitting their 20s, people in their 20s and early 30s. For whatever reason, especially those in their early 20s, mid 20s, for whatever reason, because they're adults now, they believe that we're all on the same level. We're the same. And you know, for whatever reason, now they feel like we're peers, and I can't stress this enough. If you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s, if you're in your early 40s, we're not peers. I'm not your peer. That's not to say that I'm better than you or anything of that nature. I'm just saying we're not peers. I don't care what society tell you. I don't care the fact that you're old enough to vote, you're old enough to be in the military, you're old enough to buy a gun. All that stuff is stupid and superficial to me. That means absolutely nothing to me, other than the fact that you're an adult. It does not mean that we're peers. Okay? We are not peers. And that's hard for young people to grasp. That's hard for them to understand now, especially in our society where the elderly are just thrown away, put in nursing homes, and they're forgotten about. They're abandoned. They're neglected. I love martial arts. I love Kung Fu. And one of the interesting things about Kung Fu is that it has nothing to do with age. I have brothers that I was in China with that are a lot younger than I am. And yet they were my elders when it came to Kung Fu because they had done it for so much longer than I have. And so I honored that. I respected that. The fact that they had all these years of experience far beyond what I had. And in martial arts, we can accept that. We can embrace the fact that, man, this person has a lot more experience than I do. But for some reason, when it comes to everyday life, we don't look at people in that capacity. We look at people from a pretty much a monetarialistic aspect because we live in a capitalistic society. We look at everything for the most part, superficial people look at everything for the most part from a financial aspect, from a money aspect. Where are you at financially? And based on where you're at financially, it determines whether or not we're peers. Based on where you're at financially, determines whether we're on the same level. And that's so idiotic and so superficial because there's so many aspects to life that says you're not even on the same playing field as somebody my age group or beyond if you're in your early 20s. There's no way that you could be on the level that, how can I put this tactfully? I've invested over 20 something years, way over 20 something years, in research, studying, meditation. I have over 30 something years of an adult studying and hands-on experience in just the spiritual realm. And so for people to come in and now in their early 20s and think that, oh, we're on the same playing field or we're on the same level, so I don't have to respect you, I don't have to honor you because we're peers, because we do the same stuff. And it's like, no, we don't. We don't. And it's like, I talk to you on the level that you're on. Just because I talk to you on the level that you're on doesn't mean that's all that I know. It doesn't mean that's all that I'm capable of expressing is what I talk to you about. I'm not going to talk to you about stuff that's way above your, military term, your pay grade. I'm not going to talk to you about stuff that you can't comprehend spiritually because I do you a disservice. I'm not going to talk to you about stuff that you can't comprehend intellectually because I do you a disservice. And so often people in their early 20s and early 30s, they want to ask you questions, and their way of asking you questions is just to see, okay, yeah, that's what I know. And to prove a point when there's no point to be proven. In the old ways, in African culture, in Native American culture, in Asian culture, I know those three cultures very well. So I'm gonna speak from those three perspectives. In those three cultures, in the old ways, the young men in their 20s, 30s, and 40s sat down and listened and respected their elders. They knew that they weren't on the same level as their elders intellectually, spiritually, emotionally. They might be on their level physically. They might be stronger than the elders physically. But they knew that there was no way in the world that they were going to disrespect or challenge their elders. But this young generation now, they think that because they're just as strong physically, or maybe even stronger physically, that puts us on the same playing field, that makes us peers. There's a lady that I used to take the young kids to go see and spend time with, Miss Mary. Notice that, Miss Mary. I'm 50 years old, and I still refer to this lady as Miss Mary. Got a chance to spend her celebrate her 99th and 100th birthday with her. And I would go over there about twice a week, 2 to 3 times a week, sit down and talk to her. Really, I didn't do a lot of talking. I just asked a couple of questions and I sat back and listened and just took in whatever she was pouring out. And it occurred to me on one of my first visits that at 98, this lady had probably forgotten more than what I already knew at this time. Again, I'm not somebody that just lived life. I've put in years of studying. Years. I'm talking over 20 some odd years of deep, serious, diligent studying. And yet, I was keenly aware of the fact that at 48 years old, this lady had probably forgotten more than I knew. I was married to this young lady. And again, I'm always reading. I always got different books, reading, trying to learn. And she came one day and she picked up the book and she looked at it and she put it down. You act like you know it all. I hadn't said anything to her. I'm minding my own business, reading, trying to learn. She picked the book up, looked at it, put it down, and said that I act like I know it all. And I looked at her and I said, you know what, that's interesting. I said, you're telling me that I act like I know it all, and yet you see me studying diligently all the time. I never ever see you pick up a book. I never see you do any research. I never see you study anything. At all, ever. But you're telling me that I act like I know it all. And I'm constantly studying, trying to learn. You're never studying. You're never learning. You're never growing. But you're telling me that I act like I know it all. Your actions indicate that you know it all. The fact that you never pick up a book and study, the fact that you never do any research indicates that you know it all. There's nothing for you to know. There's nothing for you to learn because you got it figured out. And that's how most young people are. Most young people come and they ask you about this book, or they'll ask you something that they just found out. They did a little bit of YouTube research. They did a little bit of Google research. And now they're enlightened. Now they think they know everything. Now they think they're awoke because they spent 4 months studying at most, but they awoke now. They're spiritually awoke. They're intellectually awoke, because they got invested 4 months, maybe 6 months. Very few of them have more than 2 years of diligent, hard-nosed research invested in their growth and development. But now they want to look at you and think that you're peers. They want to look at you as though you have nothing to offer them. They want to talk to you as though they can't learn anything from you anymore. As though all the 20 plus years that you've studied is completely irrelevant. As though all of the things that you've done spiritually is dismissed and insignificant. I tell young people all the time, the greatest way to disrespect an elderly person, your elders, is to assume that you're on the same level as them. To assume that they have nothing to teach you. To assume that you can't learn anything from them. We live in interesting times. Very interesting times. My hope and prayer is that you don't allow your ego to keep you thinking that you've arrived because you're an adult. That you don't allow your ego to keep tricking you into assuming that you and your elders are on the same level spiritually, intellectually, emotionally. Because someday they're going to pass. And if you don't pick their brain, if you don't learn everything that you can from them, you are the one that's going to miss out. I love you guys. Peace.